All right, everybody. Welcome to our next webinar series for LT. Today, my name is Arianna. I'm the Customer Success Manager for North America. We also have Liam, who is the Customer Success Manager for Australia and New Zealand with us, as well as Brandon, who is our Education Product Manager in North America. So they will be answering some of your guys' questions in the background while we're going through some of our content today. So today we're going to be covering how to edit our current content or author the content that we already have, as well as we will be creating a new lesson and adding some of the basic and different question panels and kind of going through how to create your own lesson yourselves. At the end of the little presentation here, we'll have a Q&A session where you can ask questions and we can go over them together. If I'm not able to get to your questions today in the 40 minutes that we have, we will be sure to follow up with you guys after. So please use that Q&A feature rather than the chat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So hopefully you guys can all see my screen. Where we will get started, I guess, is so at this point you guys should have your instance created as well as your course created and any of the lessons that you guys are going to want to get started with or want to edit. So I'm first going to go to this lessons tab here and I'm going to choose which lesson I'm going to want to start edit or authoring. So I'll do the respiratory mechanics and spirometry. You can edit the details. So for example, if I hit edit details here, I can change the name. Maybe I wanted to put lab 1 so the students know this is our first lab. You can also change the description. If you do some editing and it's a different version, you could change the version or however you want to describe this lesson. This is also where you can either make this a group lesson or make it an individual lesson. So some of the hands-on labs that you do, you might want to make that a group lesson so the students can work on it together. And when you're done with all of the details, you'll want to go ahead and hit finish editing. And then we're going to go ahead and open the lesson that you guys are wanting to go ahead and edit. And that's going to take us into preview mode. So when you first open up a lesson as an administrator, it's going to immediately take you into preview mode. This mode allows you to interact as if you were a student. So you can go through the different questions or the different panels, look at the background information, all of the hyperlinks. It's basically allows you to navigate the lesson exactly how the students will. When you are ready to start editing, you'll want to go ahead and click this blue edit button in the bottom right corner of the screen here. And that's going to take you into editing mode. So let's, if my internet will pick up here. As soon as you're in editing mode, you're going to be able to change the different question panels or text panels or anything like that. So each one of our pages are made up of different panels. For example, we have a text panel here, a mini pages panel, an image panel. So that's what all of these different pages are going to be made of. When you're ready to edit, you're simply just going to want to click on one of those panels. So for example, maybe I wanted to change this text. You can either hit this edit button here to edit, or you can double click on that panel. This is going to be similar to Word, so you can bold, italicize, change the different size of the text. So you'll see it's pretty straightforward for you to be able to add or take content away. As soon as you're done editing any of the text, you can go ahead and hit done. If you're wanting to move a panel around, you'll want to highlight that panel. So for example, I'll click on this text panel here, and I can just move it around the page. You'll notice that there's a blue bar there, and that is going to tell you where that panel is going to be dropped. You'll also see that it resizes depending on where you move it. So it'll resize and fit the entire page. You can also resize image panels, delete them. You can copy a panel and put it onto a different page or cut them as well from that page. In addition to this, if you wanted to add any content to our lessons that we currently have, you want to pull all of that down from this panels button here. So we have basic panels that you can add. Basic is things like text or images. We have a divider and white space. That's kind of a way you can organize the content on your page. You can include tables, spreadsheets. So we have a bunch of different basic type of panels. We also have question panels. You'll notice our multiple choice. We have categories, drag and drop, as well as labeling. All of those question types are all automatically graded within LT. So those are really good for you guys to save time. We also have text questions, tables, spreadsheets. These you would have to grade manually, but they are interactive features or panels that your students can do. We also allow multimedia, or it's capable to use multimedia, so you can use any videos or audio, as well as data acquisition. But most of our labs that we already have the data acquisition already within them. So just to kind of show you how you would add a panel, and we're going to go through creating a lesson together. So we'll go through a lot of these different panels, but basically you just drag and drop that panel onto the page. And like I showed you before, wherever that blue line ends up on the page is where that panel is going to go. Finally, if you wanted to add pages or delete pages, things like that, you can go ahead and click on this pages button on that bottom of your screen. If you hit new page, it will add a page right after the one that you're currently on. You can delete the page you're currently on. You can also duplicate a page, so that will duplicate that page you're on within the same lesson. You can copy a page from this lesson and actually put it into a different lesson. So if you wanted to combine lessons or take some information from one and put it in the other, you can do that. You can reorder the pages if you wanted to put them in a different order. And under this pages button is also where you can add a checkpoint throughout your lesson or edit any of the pop-ups that we have. So you'll see it's pretty straightforward. If you guys want to get started, you can we have a bunch of different lessons for you guys to be able to use as a base, and then you guys can customize them to your course and your learning objectives. It's basically when you're in editing mode, you'll use the different types of panels. You can change the text, pictures, things like that. So I'm now going to go and actually create my own lesson here. So when you're in your course, you'll go ahead and click course, lessons, and it's just going to be, we'll start off with just hitting this new lesson here. And it's going to take us to a brand new lesson. You'll see there's nothing on these pages as of yet. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to want to title our lesson. So up here in the top of the page here, we'll hit this little pencil icon and we can title whatever our lesson is going to be. And we can also put a title on our first page. So I'll hit that pencil again, and maybe it's going to be introduction. So first I want to go ahead and put some text on my page here. So I'm going to come down here to this panels option under basic panels, and I just drag and drop that text onto the page. I can then click there and put whatever text I want to do. Let's do long anatomy airflow. And I can use it, like I said before, similar to Word, where you can change the different size or headings or anything like that. A really nice feature that we have for text is that you can also copy and paste or fast drag, and I'm going to show you how to do both of these. But if I wanted to, let's say, add some of our learning objectives, I can again drag and drop a text box on here. And you guys most likely have some text in different Word documents or from your lecture notes that you can just go ahead and select there, copy. I can go back into LT and paste, and you'll see how fast it is that it automatically goes in there. On this first introduction page, maybe I also want to go ahead and add an image. So I'll go back down to this panels button down here, grab the image, And again, you'll notice where that blue bar is. So I can drag that onto my page and it will resize or move everything around accordingly. I can then double click this image, hit add image, and I'll go ahead and find the image that I want to do. So I have an image automatically saved here, and the image populates within that page. You can also add a caption down here if you'd like. So I'll go ahead and hit done. The more you get to the more familiar you get with this, the more fun it kind of becomes. You can use different things like the divider to divide or kind of separate the text or pictures. You can also use white space if you want to organize where you want your panels on the page as well. I'm going to go ahead and just do one more text here, put it right above here, and title this Learning Objectives. Make it a header, maybe header 3. So I have my first introduction page. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go down here to pages and hit new page. So this next page is going to be the structure and anatomy. Oop. And I'll hit OK. So that new page is going to go ahead and come up. And again, it's a blank space here. So I'll start again through just putting a title on the page. I'll make this one a big header there, and I'll hit done. And I want to add some more text on here. And so before I showed you how you can drag a text panel from this bottom bar down here and copy and paste or just type in that text panel, we also have what's called fast drag functionality or function. So you can actually copy and paste any content that you already have, or just copy, excuse me, and just drag this over onto the page. You can then put it over this little cogwheel here, and it's going to ask you how you or what type of panel you want with that text that you dragged over. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and hit text, and you'll see that text automatically comes over there. I can then double click on this and edit it however I want the students to be able to see it. So maybe I'll make these bold. I'll hit done here. For text panels, we have a style that you can actually choose. So this is our default, what you're looking at right now. But you can also put a different type of style on it so the student might catch the student's eye, or if you want them to be careful somewhere throughout the lesson or something like that. So you can actually choose, you'll see how it changes up there, the different types of style you want within that text box. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave this one as an info one. And I'll go ahead and put in a divider there as well. In addition to being able to drag and drop, or I'm sorry, fast drag the content, you can also fast drag images. So I have an image saved over here, and the same thing where I can fast drag, put this onto my page, over that cogwheel there, and it's going to ask me what type of panel I want to make this image. So just for this page, I'm just going to use it as an image, but on the next couple of pages, I'll show you how you can use that as a labeling question. So I'll go ahead and put image in over here. And some more content that I want to go ahead and put in in my lesson. I'll go ahead and do this one, copy and paste. So I'll go down here to panels. I'll add a text panel. Double click, I can paste it. And now I have text and my image on there. Something else I want to show you is how you can do pop-ups or little hyperlinks that the students can click on. So when I'm in this text panel here, maybe I want there to be more information on this term here. I can highlight that, go to this pop-up icon here. And what this does is it takes me to a screen that allows me to create a pop-up for the student to see. It's exactly, the pop-up screen is exactly like a brand new page within LT when you're creating it. So you can drag and drop panels exactly how you were on the other pages. For example, I can drag and drop a text panel here. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in the information that I want within that pop-up. So I'll copy, I'll go back over here, paste and hit done. As soon as I hit OK, I'm also going to hit done within this text panel. And we have this option to go into preview mode. We talked about that before, but you can go back and forth from preview to editing mode so you can see your work as soon as you're finished with it. So I'm going to hit preview. And now you'll see that that little pop-up that I highlighted, the information that I put in there or any of the images I put in there are then going to show up for your students. So I'm going to go ahead now and we're going to add some questions for the students. So I'm going to go to exit preview. So now I'm back in editing mode. I'm going to add another page and we'll just put questions here. Hit OK. And again, now we have a blank slate for this page. So for the first question I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this panels down here. And rather than basic panels, I'll go to this question panels tab. And I want to go ahead and choose multiple choice. So it's kind of going to take you through or direct you through how to set up these questions. So right here it says enter the question. So I'll go ahead and click here and we'll do and then you can enter your different choices for this multiple choice question. So I'll put my cursor in this first one here. And you can have as many choices as you want. Go ahead and spell that correctly. And as soon as I have all of my choices that I want the students to be able to choose from, I'm going to have to come down here, and you will have to do this for every one of your questions, is to choose the type of assessment that you want. So for question panels, we have 4 types of assessment. There's no assessment, which means there's no right or wrong answer technically. So this might be a question like, what were some of the topics that you struggled with during this lesson, or something along those lines. There's instant feedback. This allows your students, this will give your students instant feedback on if they're right or wrong. You can make this so they have as many chances or attempts as they want, or you can make it so they only have 1 attempt. This does not have a point value, however. There's also graded. Graded does not give them your students feedback, so they won't know if they're right or wrong until you guys or a TA or an instructor grades them, but it does assign a point value. And then there's instant and graded. That gives them feedback and also gives it a point value. So you can have that, you can also make that so the students have multiple attempts, or you can make it so they only have 1 attempt. I'm going to choose instant and graded for this one. And now that I have set up my question, I have to go ahead and set the answer. So I believe the answer to this one is trap form particles. I could be wrong on this, to be honest. When you choose the right answer, you can enter feedback for the students for when they get that instant feedback. So I'm sure your guys' feedback will be a lot better than mine, but just for time purposes, I'll just put a couple words in there. You'll see when we hit edit answer, it took us here where we can assign a point values for however many points we want this question to be worth. And this is also where I would choose if I want multiple attempts or not. So I'll hit OK. And as soon as I'm finished with that question, I'll hit done. And go ahead and preview that question. So now you'll see that the question shows up here. The students are able to answer their question and get their instant feedback. The feedback that we typed in there shows up right under here. So I'll exit preview here. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do a labeling question. So again, like before I was talking about the fast drag, you can also fast drag an image in here. I'll go ahead and put it right over that cogwheel. And like I was showing you before, it's going to ask you what type of panel you want this image to be. And I'm actually going to make this one a labeling image. So that picture of the lungs shows up there. We can enter the question first up here. Type quick here for you. And then you can add however many labels you want on that question. So we'll go ahead and do and one more. And you'll see every time I added a new label, these little boxes with the arrows here show up. So I can move these around and move the boxes around so they look however you want them to look here. So I'll put one there, move this down, and we'll go right here. So again, like I was showing before, we do have to choose a type of assessment so we can set the correct answer. For this one, I'll go ahead and do instant and graded again. I'll set my answer. So this, I'm going to put in what the right answer is for the students. I will be able to give them however many points I want this one to be worth, and I can check if I want multiple attempts or not. I'm going to uncheck this time so I can show you how it won't allow the students to have more than one chance. I'll go ahead and hit OK, hit done. And now when I hit preview, the students can answer the question. And when they check their answer this time, it's going to make them commit their answer, which means as soon as they commit it, they'll see the instant feedback, but then it's grayed out and they won't be able to answer that question again. So I'll exit preview one more time. So in addition to these different question types, again, we could go over a couple more maybe during the Q&A if you guys have a specific one you want to see. But there are a lot of different types of questions you can do for or set up for your students. These are really nice interactive features that they'll be going through throughout the lesson. And when you do drag these panels onto the page, it usually just takes you through, tells you where to put the question, how to do the labeling, things like that. There's this pages button down here. This is where we can add a completion page or also a new checkpoint page. So if you add a checkpoint, basically that makes the students commit at that point, so they won't be able to go back and change any of their answers before moving forward. We can also do the completion page, so that is the final page. So when your students go throughout the report, or I'm sorry, go throughout the lesson, at the very end, they'll have that completion page where they can commit their lesson. You have the option of showing the report for your students on the last page or just having them commit it. If you do check show report here, that report will show up with all of the questions throughout the lesson and the answers your students have given. So I'll go ahead and go to the page beforehand. I was talking about before how you can actually copy an entire page from a lesson and put that into a different lesson. So you can combine two lessons if you want, or you can just take some information from one and put it into the other. The way you would do that is you would have both of those lessons, the one you're taking from and the one that you'll be editing or putting it into, on multiple tabs up here in your browser. So you want to go ahead and go to the page that you want to copy. We'll click on Pages, Copy Page. Then we can go onto the other tab. We'll go to the page that we want right before the new page we're putting in. We'll put paste here, and now you'll see that question, or I'm sorry, that page has shown up in my new lesson. We always have this undo button. If you did something that you didn't necessarily try or mean to do, you can always undo it and it will take you back to the previous spot that you were at. You can also add any background information. So if I wanted to put background information up here in my lesson, I'd go ahead and click that. And that's a brand new slate, almost like a brand new page as well. You could put lecture notes in here or information from the textbook or anything you want your students to be able to see throughout the lab. They're able to access this background information, and you'll be able to set that up with this panels and pages button as well. So that's pretty much all the information we have, or we're gonna go over today on how to create your own lesson. One thing I do like to make sure and reiterate is to make sure and do these changes or these edits before you publish your work. If you do publish and set the availability and some of your students go in and make some changes, or I'm sorry, some of your students start the lesson and then you go back and make changes, the students who have already started will not see that newest version. So make sure all of your edits and everything is done before going ahead and publishing for your students. So I'll go ahead and open it up now to a Q&A. And so let me open this up here. Okay, if we record our own data, we can use this data in different pages. To be able to do this, we have to link the data page with a different analysis page. How do we do this? Great question. So if you are recording your data, let me go into panels down here. And I'm going to put in a data sampling panel that you would be recording your data. And I'm just going to choose a random, we'll do a breathing here. So if we were going to be recording on this page, but we want the analysis to be on the next page, what we're going to want to do is copy, let me hit done here. We'll copy this data panel, and you'll see there's a paste alias button that shows up on the bottom of the screen here. So we'll go on to that next page. Oop, I'm going to have to add a new one, it looks like. So pages, new page. We'll just do analysis. Hit OK, and then paste alias. So now any recordings that we're doing on this previous page are going to show up on the next one that we have aliased over onto this page 4 where the analysis is. Could this be done in a different webinar, perhaps? I'm not really sure exactly what we're referring to there, but we are going to have a webinar, I think in 2 weeks. That's a little bit more advanced authoring. So that might be one you guys will want to show up, maybe go over some more questions, some more details, things like that. Since we have a little bit of time left, I can go ahead and show you a couple other question types that we have. So maybe I'll do a new page here. And we'll just do questions 2. And I'll hit OK. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do the categories question. So I'm going to drag and drop that on there. Again, it tells you where you're going to put the actual question. So I'm going to do okay, so that's my question for the students. And these are my 2 different types of categories that the students will be using. You can add however many categories you want. But for this one, I'm just going to use 2. And my other option is expiration. And then I can put the different labels that will go within these categories. So I could do diaphragm. We could do and last one we'll do external. As I mentioned before you can set the right answer here, you'll want to go down and choose the type of assessment you want. I'm going to choose instant feedback for this one. That means that there's no point value assigned, but the students will get feedback. I'll choose set answer. So now I'm going to put in where the right answers are for the students. And I hope I'm right on this. We'll hit OK. done. And I'm going to go into preview to look over my question. So now you'll see the students see their question. They can go ahead and answer it. They have that check answer or instant feedback option. It tells them if they're right or wrong. And since I didn't choose one, or since I kept multiple attempts checked, they can try as many times as they want. We can also go over how to do a table or a graph question. So I'm going to exit the preview here, go to panels, and we'll do a table question. Oh, let me delete that one. Okay, so with tables, you can create however many rows or columns you want and enter the question in there as well. So I'll go ahead and get started. We'll do, maybe your students are recording the heart rate of one another. So enter the heart rate for each student. We can make header rows or header columns. So this first row is going to be our titles of the column. So I'll go ahead and go on this row drop-down menu, make that a header row. So that could be the students' names. And this can be the actual heart rate. If you don't want your students to type in one of the cells in the question, you'll want to click on that cell and do this non-pencil button here. That makes it so the student won't be able to type in that cell. I want to also do this one for heart rate since that's also the title. And then I'm going to add a couple more rows since there's going to be multiple students. So I'll add a row below, and you can have it however many rows that you want. I'm going to leave these cells here editable so the students are able to put in any information that they're asked to. Now when I hit done and preview, the students, whenever they're doing their recording, they can go ahead and put in their name and whatever the value is that they're for the heart rate there. What's also nice is that you can have graphs automatically populate from tables that the students are filling out. So I'm going to again exit preview, go to panels here, and the graph question. I'm going to drag and drop that graph question onto the page. And it's going to automatically ask me what information or what data, from where am I pulling the data for this graph. So I'm going to select table, and any of the tables that are on this page will have this use data from here. So you'll be able to choose that one. So now the graph knows that's where I'm pulling the data from. I can then edit the graph here and choose where we'll be pulling the data from within that table. So I'll hit OK and done. And now if I go into preview mode and I type in information here, Liam's heart rate was 63. Maybe mine was 75. Brandon's was 70. So it's pretty nice that those graphs can automatically populate. You can then title the graph in both the X and Y axes if necessary. So I don't see any more open questions in the Q&A, but I hope you guys found this very helpful. We have a bunch of great resources on our support page. If you go to this your account and the drop down menu, there's the support page here. There's a lot of good authoring and editing videos, and we will also be having in 2 weeks a more advanced authoring webinar as well. The LT community is also a great place for you guys to connect with other users around the world globally in other regions. You guys can share content, ask questions, work with one another. So I highly also suggest joining that as well. But thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day and are safe and healthy during this time. We'll talk to you guys soon.